Всем привет! С вами Ladkor, и мы едем на завод PRS через красивый мост. Завод находится в штате Мэриленд, город называется Стивенсвиль, и он находится на острове Кент. Собственно, этот мост вот и соединяет сушу с островом. Справа. Право, это мы. Ну, теперь у нас-то правильная кофта PR, так что нас должны пустить. Подходим к двери. Завод. Мы зашли внутрь, нас встретили очень хорошо. Сейчас нам дали гида по заводу, который нам все будет рассказывать. Мы будем общаться с ним на английском языке. So, it's Ryan. Ryan, let us know who you are, how long you're working here.
My name is Ryan Emmert. I'm with the New Products Engineering Department here at PRS Guitars. I've been with PRS a little over 5 years. And I've worked on the factory floor, I worked in customer service, and currently with doing product coordination for new products.
Okay, so maybe I mailed you sometimes if I had some question on the mail. I sent a lot. For the 15 years, I believe we're selling guitars. So we are in room. What is the room here?
Right now we're in the West Street East accessory store. We've got some of Paul's first guitar builds showcased.
Before 85, yeah?
Correct. So some of these were built prior to the company starting in 1985. This one was, I believe, built in the late, maybe even mid-70s. It was one of the first, if not the first guitar that Paul Reed Smith had ever built. And then moving on, we start to get a bit more...
Oh, that's Santana.
Yeah, a bit more complicated with introducing the maple tops on the Santana models, early Santana models. This might have been one of the earlier ones, pre-factory, built possibly for Howard Leese, maybe for Santana. But you can see some of the small differences, like the roller nut, the small eagle inlaid in the headstock, some of the early versions of the tuners and the bridge, and then eventually we come to the Custom 24. This is one of the earlier Custom 24 models that would have been taken around and showcased at early PRS dealers to try and garner some orders for the first Custom 24 models. So this is what they were looking like right around 1985, and how the design kind of started out. So not a lot of changes have happened. Small changes have happened throughout. Since then, things like the headstock and the bridge and the pickups have changed a little bit, but for the most part it's pretty identifiable as the Custom 24.
You got it. We had in our stock the Custom from 1986, and it's 1024 serial or something like this, so it's pretty close to this one.
Yep.
And I remember it's switch.
Yep.
It's like sweet switch or?
Correct. So that was a sweet switch, which was made to actually imitate the 100-foot cables that Santana was using, because when you use a longer guitar cable, it's going to change the impedance of the signal. So that was Paul's way to recreate that 100-foot cable when Santana switched to a wireless system.
I get it.
He's had a rotary switch as well, so 5-way rotary switch. Later on, we started doing bolt-on models. This is one of the first bolt-on models that was built in the factory here. You can start to see where some of the changes happen with the headstock logo, some of the parts as well. This one's an earlier one with dot inlays, when we were offering dot inlays and bird inlays for the early bolt-on models. And then a little bit farther into the future, one of the first modern Eagle guitars here.
This is first one?
I think this is the original Modern Eagle design, rosewood neck, satin finish, covered pickups, which really Paul's design there was trying to make a very strong, very resonant guitar. So that was sort of exactly.
Yeah, it's a nice guitar. We also had, and it was 5 Modern Eagles, as I remember.
Yep.
The first one, this is first model, then
Correct.
the first one had a Brazilian rosewood neck.
Correct.
But I don't remember the second has or not.
I think it was also a rosewood neck.
But
the
I'm
appointments
not sure.
changed. I think they were always kind of based off of a McCarty model. Only the Modern Eagle 5, I think, has taken on a bit more options with the switching and with the tremolo bridge on there. So it's definitely evolved over the years. So with that, we can start to take a look at the factory. I like to take us down the main hallway. So we'll be walking through the wood shop to get over to the rough cut, which is where all the raw materials, all the raw wood is actually delivered into the factory. So we'll begin by looking at the wood drying process, and then we'll move into the wood shop and see how the guitars start to be built.
Okay, I have a few questions here. I see another guitars here. This is Dragon. This is the 40s.
Yep.
We have it in stock right now. So yeah, it's nice guitar.
Beautiful dragon inlay made of, I believe, over 100 inlay pieces. Pale moon ebony fretboard. Nice wide curly maple top, and the new McCarty 3 pickups. And then two over here are.
It's
this one's
like
an early
old the SE model.
Yeah, early SE Santana model, signed by Carlos Santana in a pearl white finish with the early hockey puck inlays there.
It should be early zeros or
2001 was when they started. This one would have been within those first couple of years, if not the first year, because we were still using the Santana logo instead of switching to the PRS SE logo. So probably 2001 or 2002.
Okay, and that one?
And then this one's the first S2 models. So S2 being standing for Stevensville 2. So
It's like middle between SE
the
quality.
second American-made PRS line. I like to say building a guitar that's a bit more manufacturing friendly. So starting with smaller wood specs and being able to make something a little more cost efficient.
Yes. Okay, and I do remember that eagle straight in the entrance. Can you let us know what that?
Yeah, there's an artist, his name's Floyd Schultz. He's a wood carver, and
he is from United States?
I believe so. I could double check on that. But he's a master wood carver at that. He's done some guitar tops for us. He's also done this eagle. He's known for doing hyper-realistic carvings of all kinds of animals.
So that's a wood?
Correct. And that one, you know, is right atop one of our archtop guitars there. And yeah, he's worked with Paul a couple of times on some designs on the tops of guitars. You know, Paul Reed Smith and birds seem to go together well, and knowing that he is one of the sort of worldwide master carvers there. So
I saw some old editions that has on the top like the eagle head, an oval head, and something special.
We did a tiger, we did a snake once.
So that guitars was made by Schultz.
So he was the one doing the carves on the top. What we probably did was we probably carved a guitar out and then sent that body to him for him to do the carve process on the top. and then followed by sending it back here. Our private stock team would probably help finish that and make it a completed guitar.
He's still making it? It's possible to order?
I don't think he is doing those anymore. Not something that we're currently ordering. I'm not sure what the standing on orders for those types of guitars are. They were probably a limited run sort of thing that we were doing with him. It would depend on the artist. You know, we've worked with other artists before. More recently, we did the Mark Germani 20th anniversary guitars that had the Fenton artist work on the tops.
Yeah,
so.
I tried to take one, but it's impossible.
Right.
It's like
Yep.
I
think we only did 20 of them. So.
We got every limited edition from Polaris, but not this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, some of them are quite limited. So, I'll lead us down the office space here, and then we'll enter the wood shop and start taking a look at how they're built right away. So, if we see anybody coming towards us with the cart, I'll try to make sure we're standing in a good spot for it, so that way we're not standing in the way. But and also we do have some hearing protection. I think we're doing all right there with the video. So this is the main wood shop. It's sort of divided into four main sections. Right in the middle is going to be your next CNC carving process. We'll go over all of these as well, so we'll be covering each section once we get back into the shop. Okay. The far right end is going to be your body carve. So we build a body, we build a neck. They come to body neck construction. They get assembled, they get sanded, and then they go to the finish hall. That's kind of the main breakdown of the wood shop. We'll cover each section in detail once we cover the first two sections. It's a little quieter in here, so it's good to cover everything while we're here.
Там будет слышно. I will introduce you, my friend. No.
Oh, okay.
Это Тим. Это самый первый человек, который нам показал фабрику. I just say that you are the very first guy who showed us like 7 years ago the factory. And he is just a friend.
And I'm still here.
36 years.
36.
Today. 36 лет человек работает. You will go with us. Thank you. Now we can take a video. We have a lot of stuff here.
See, we like to call ourselves a wood-in, guitar-out factory. So wherever possible, we're sourcing raw materials to build the guitars out of. It starts with wood, of course. Primarily, PRS guitars are made from a mahogany back with a maple top. We use mahogany necks and a rosewood fingerboard for a large majority of our core models. Some of the artist's signature models will use 2 or 3-piece alder or swamp ash bodies. Some of them will use maple necks with maple fretboards. Some will use maple necks with rosewood fretboards. We also use a variety of more exotic woods in the private stock department to make limited runs out of or through the wood library program. So we do use some Brazilian rosewood. We use some Honduran rosewood for both fretboards and necks. We'll use some black limba or some Carina occasionally for bodies and necks of guitars.
Are they in different places or on the one?
So they would be stored in different places. We've got a large, quantity of wood stored on site here. We also keep a quantity of wood stored at certain locations off site. It's the kind of industry where if you find good wood to build guitars out of, the lesson we've learned is that if you can acquire good wood to build guitars from, you should sort of get that and keep it in your inventory. That's why Paul Reed Smith's known to have some of the best, curly maple tops in the industry. We've got 2 gentlemen that actually travel all around the world that work with lumber yards, just develop relationships with them to be able to get the best offerings for the best wood for guitar building. So that stuff is delivered here. We've got a big sort of warehouse out there where things can be stored when they're delivered here. They go through a quick rough cutting process. So these gentlemen will actually process almost around 20,000 board feet of material per month. So around 5,000 board feet of material per week going through the rough cut section here. And all of that wood gets stick stacked, as we call it.
I have a question. Is
Yeah.
all the wood here is for S2 and for core models?
Correct.
And the same for 10 top.
Yep.
And private stock it's separate
Yep.
every time, even body?
Yeah.
Even
So-
body, so it will be separated.
Correct. So these gentlemen will be the initial graders of the wood. So if they get a collection of maple tops over there, you can see they're beginning to actually color code some of those tops. They've got some private stock ones on the far right. They've got a couple of 10 tops, and they've got a couple of CE and S2 based on the color coding from left to right. So they'll begin to process those boards up. They'll get them stick stacked, which is going to stack them in an arrangement so that way there's ventilation room between each board. These are some of our drying room garage doors here. This is one as well for our maple tops. We can see some of the maple tops that are in there. Put a stick between each board. It allows proper ventilation around the entire cut. It also keeps the boards from cupping. It keeps them flat during the drying process. Depending on the species of wood, it'll dry from four weeks to maybe 2 to 3 months. Some woods will take even longer than that. It all depends on the moisture level when they're delivered to the factory. Most woods, when they're delivered to the factory, will contain approximately 12 to 16% water, moisture content. We can take a hydrometer and we can measure the moisture content of the wood. We can dry it, and then we'll occasionally check it as it gets lower and lower. We'll dry the wood down to an equilibrium level, which means we'll dry it to a point where it's no longer going to be really losing or absorbing any moisture. So we dry it to around 4%, and by the time we take those boards, those stick-stacked pallets, back out onto the factory floor, they will reacclimate at around 6% moisture content. And that's sort of the magic number for us. After the wood has been dried, we can build guitars out of it. We can send those guitars to Florida, Taiwan, Arizona, wherever they need to go, and they tend not to react to the moisture in the air. They're playable. Another part of that is going to be the fretboards as well. This is actually a dry kiln for the fretboard woods and the headstock veneers. Rosewood and ebony and other fingerboard woods can be very oily, can contain a little bit more moisture than the maple and the mahogany wood. So we'll dry kiln those at a little bit higher temperature, and it'll actually crystallize the resins inside of the rosewood. So this is prior to putting it into the drying kiln there, and this is afterwards. It'll actually literally crystallize the resins inside the wood and make it, it'll eliminate shrinkage of the fretboard for the life of the instrument. So 10, 15 years down the road, you won't experience fret sprout like you would with the guitar whose fingerboard hasn't been dried that way. So it eliminates sort of the need to constantly have to service your instrument, take it out, get a fret level, or get the fret ends cleaned up. So we're gonna go back upstairs. I'll catch up with you guys.
Is our customers know, some of them know, but some not, different between 10 top and non-10 top? Is choosing on that room? Who is choosing that?
So it's we try to make it as quantitative of a thing as possible. So a 10 top is going to be a top where there is visible figuring, visible curl from the bottom of the guitar all the way to the top of the guitar. And we'll take a look at some of the tops, the finished tops over there, to sort of get an idea of that. This is going to be an example of one of our 10 tops here, and let me get it aligned here and show you the book matching process. So we'll get the boards in as a whole piece like this. We'll actually have to resaw that down the middle. You can see the curl of the rings of the tree. So the center of the tree was right around here. We'll take that piece of wood and we'll resaw it down the middle and open it up like a book. This creates a book-matched maple top. Actually, go this way. See where the lines align there. Yep. So the left and right halves of the top are symmetrical. This one would be deemed a 10 top because you can see from the bottom of the board there all the way up to the top, we get full figuring. There's nowhere in between where we start to see any of the curl lose its depth. So otherwise you start to see some white curly maple like that sort of stretching across the whole thing. So we can take a look at some S2 and some 4 tops and compare and contrast what they look like. This is a great example of a 10 top. You can see there's consistent curl all the way from there to there. There's a bit of a spot right here where it opens up, but you can still see some curl happening in between there. Also, as you go through the carve process, there will be some material taken off of each end here, and it can change sort of the image of the top. So
and you never know, will it be 10 top or not?
Right, and so we do adjust as we go along. So if a top gets put on a guitar and down the line gets carved and all of a sudden it's lost a lot of its figuring, if we needed to downgrade that and say maybe this one doesn't qualify as a 10 top, we'll actually knock it off and maybe it would be made available as a non-10 top guitar. Or if it could meet the requirements of an order, we would just go ahead and make it that way.
Okay, so
vice versa, if we were to carve a top and all of a sudden it looks really good, all of a sudden the figuring and the curl comes out, and we can use that guitar to fulfill an order for a 10 top, we would do that.
So you have a grade of wood, I mean maple tops like regular one, the 10 top, and the private stock. All of them are choosing on that room, but anyway, you are deciding will it be 10 top or non-10 top after all production, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an initial grading process, but it's actually not finalized until the guitar reaches the finish hall.
Okay, got it. And you had the artist package tops that you don't have anymore.
Right.
You know why factory decided to delete this option?
In some cases, it may be just trying to have more clearly defined tops. So when you have 2A, 3A, and 4A tops, I think it's a bit easier to define a 2A as an S2, a 3A as a core, and a 4A as either a 10 top or a private stock if it's got some very distinct figure to it.
Yeah.
So I think it makes it a little bit easier for the grading process to remain consistent. I would say private stock tops would be comparable to artists' top guitars. The only difference being that private stock orders allow you that full extent of customization, you know, so you can get a different inlay material, a different neck material, so on and so forth. Whereas previously with artist package guitars, it was more of selecting one with the highest grade top possible, and it would also come with an upgraded ebony fingerboard. We kind of cycled that out for a bit more variety through the Wood Library program. So offering things like Cocobolo and Brazilian rosewood fingerboards and curly maple necks sort of offered a bit more variety through upgraded options as opposed to just doing the artist package.
We had 3 editions of Wood Library. We ordered like 10 guitars each, and it was possible to choose the top. It was possible 7 years ago. That's the reason. That was one of the reasons we decided to have a factory tour 7 years ago, and we choose tops for that. And we choose tops for private stock. Now it's impossible. I know why. Because of dealers wants every time, can you take a picture? Can you take a picture of that? I don't like it.
It is logistically a lot to sort of maintain every customization, you know. And it was such a nice thing to offer too at the time, but yeah, realistically, it was very difficult to maintain those orders and to be consistent with them, you know. So.
We can continue.
As you can see, with the non-10 top, you do get curl that can sometimes go from the top to the bottom, but there are some sort of blank spots here and there. So this would be an S2 top for that reason. And you know, they vary. This one would be a bit nicer looking, but perhaps after the carve process or the bevel, we're going to lose a little bit of that curl there. So there's also a little bit of a thickness difference as well.
That's different.
You can see that because its thickness is different. This one S2, this maple, because of carrying. It's like violin top, and this one a regular one.
Yep. We call that a bevel carve.
Толщина в топе.
So they will take those two pieces of the top. They're going to line them up on this flat marble piece here. That way they can get the perfect alignment of the two halves of the maple top. They'll take a pencil and he'll score it. That way they know how to align it. Over there, the glue up section, he's going to spread a line of glue between each piece. He'll set it down in the jig. It's actually a pneumatic press. So he'll hold it down with his foot. It'll clamp the board shut.
Yep.
Then he'll take this red handled box. He'll place that on the top. It actually sends a radio signal through the top. There's a chemical additive to the glue that'll heat up from the radio signal, from the microwave basically, and it'll dry that glue in around 45 to 50 seconds. That way we can get our tops glued up a little bit quicker, and by the time we glue the top to the back, we'll put it in that hydraulic press behind us there. That hydraulic press applies 4 tons of pressure per square inch to the top and back, which renders that top and back completely stuck together for life.
It's the same glue for the glued top and body and top, or no?
No, it's different. So we'll use a wood glue.
This
with a
one,
chemical additive.
that one white is for top.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we'll use an epoxy for the top and back.
Okay.
And they'll be pressed together there. That top's going to be dry right there that he's pulling off on the left side.
Can we see it closer?
Yep.
I mean the top and body.
Press them in right there.
Вот там вот склеиваю топ из body. Oh, I see. It's just press.
Yep. So the backs are square still. The tops do have an initial body shape. And then when they come out of the press there, we'll cut them out into these guitar-shaped bodies. So they're completely flat top and back. They've got a quick perimeter cut out and a couple of pinholes that are drilled for placement in the CNC machine. And then these will all be CNC carve machines for the bodies of the guitars.
I got it. It's the same CNC machines for core model and CS2, or it's different? And what about the thickness of mahogany body? Is the same on core and S2 or not? I mean, you just said the different in thickness on the top.
It would be dimensionally the same for all tremolo models. So tremolo models, I think, shoot for around 1.75 inches, which 1 3/4. Thicker backs on stop tail guitars, so a McCarty would have a thicker mahogany back.
Because of the model, yeah.
Right, and an S2 and a core, I believe the core, it will only be about 1/4 of an inch thicker as a result of the thicker top.
S2 just has one piece of mahogany body, or
Correct, yeah. All mahogany bodies are one piece.
the core and S2 also.
Yep.
So there's no difference in the body,
No.
except the top.
Except for the top thickness and the carve, yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
Okay.
as for hollow bodies, and we'll take a look at an example model over there, but we actually do a full carve inside and out on those tops. So we'll carve the entire top, we'll carve the entire back and middle. These haven't been carved yet. And then they'll actually glue together, and then they'll go in for another 2 carve processes for the outside of the top and back. So 3 times as many carving programs for a hollow body guitar as for a solid body. Of course, we'll come through here as well. We'll get thickness sanded to get to their proper dimension, and then they'll be brought over to our inlay cell over here.
What is it? Is graded wood already?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
If it's got the color code on it, then that's already been graded. Yellow would mean an S2.
Ah, okay.
green would be a CE or a bolt-on. The other greens that are 3/4 are going to be core non-10s. Green with an orange, I think, or orange is going to be a 10 top, and then blue is going to mark private stock or.
Okay.
or
Do you still have tops for wood library separate, or it's just core?
They are separated, and I believe they're separated just by distinct features. I'm not sure which of these collections would be
7 years ago, it was somewhere here.
Right, like it may be those, and those may be private stock.
Yeah, and
I'm not 100%.
And it was a difference between, the West Coast maple and East Coast maple because of lines.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still the same.
I believe so. Yeah. So,
Can we show it somewhere?
I don't have examples
Okay, no
of each
problem.
color here right now. That's decided for like a scheduler. So, and they may be able to identify that. But
Usually you using the American maple, right? For the tops, yeah. So
well, sources. There's a variety of places to source maple. Some of it comes from Croatia. Some of it actually comes from Canada. You know, part of it depends on where we're capable of getting it from and what the quality of the figuring is. So, but yeah, East and West Coast maple do tend to have different sort of lines, and they're useful in different colors. So
I just remember the team showed us again. So I don't remember the East one have just lines, horizontal lines, and the West also have a vertical.
right.
As I can remember.
Right. It is a bit more visible to have the vertical lines on, I think, West Coast maple.
Yeah.
I could be mistaken about those, but fingerboards and headstock veneers. We'll go through this process here. This is a CNC machine, sort of like a small Dremel bit that can carve, I think, 6 to 8 veneers or 8 to 12 fretboards at a time. We'll cut out the slots for the bird.
Yeah, that's what CNC doing. What about different birds? It's another program, the same machine, or it's another machine? I mean, it's like anniversary or
the same machine, and we'll take these. These would actually be lamb sheets.
Yep.
So it's abalone. It's sheets of abalone that are laminated together to make these workable sort of 1/8 of an inch sheets here. And we'll cut out. So these would be different bird shapes depending on what model. Some are outlines with centers, so they would come in multiple pieces. Others would just be the entire bird in one piece there. So we'll cut them out of these sheets, and they'll actually be inlaid and set with some.
that's how it
A
works.
couple of the outline birds. So they are assembled in different pieces. They'll soak them with some CA adhesive, and then they'll go through a quick radius program. So we will radius the fretboard prior to putting them on the neck. That way, once we put them on the neck, we can ensure that they're nice and level, and we can resand them to make sure that they're perfectly level for the frets.
Almost all models have a 10 degrees radius, I believe.
Yep.
Only the John Mayer has another one, and maybe some signature. I don't know.
Yeah, artist signature models are the only ones that sometimes get. I think Mark Holcomb's gets a 20.
Yeah.
John
Mark
Mayer
Holcomb.
gets a 7 1/4. And if you'd like, y'all can have a souvenir, stencil out some birds if you'd like. You can take those with you.
Thank you.
Put up against the light and have some shadows.
Thank you.
We're walking down the main hallway here. necks will go down their carve all the way there. Bodies will go down their carve all the way there. And then I like to stop here just to sort of get a quick glimpse of neck and body construction. We use an oversized neck fit. So the neck is made intentionally oversized to fit the body. That way we can sand the neck sides and back down to achieve the perfect fit and the perfect angle depending on the bridge or what type of guitar that it is. By the time we're done with that glue-up process, we clean up that joint with a lot of a toothbrush, and we'll get them set up in their jig, so that way we can ensure that the guitar dries with the perfect neck angle prior to going over to final sand. So they're going to set those up. They'll let those set until the next shift, and then the next guys will come in and they'll take those down and set up the next couple of guitars. So.
What he is doing now here?
Just cleaning up the neck joint there. So after the guitar, the body and neck are put together, we clean up that neck joint. That's the only time that we sand that area, so that way we don't tear down any of the dimensions there. We make sure everything's the proper size. And we're gonna clean up those areas, and then we'll get it ready for final sand, and then it'll go over to the finish hall.
Okay, and you have a separate area, so we now we see how you glued the top, how you glued the neck, and the neck production is separate. I remember.
For core guitars, we'll start with a 12-quarter neck blank. Very large chunk of wood. Yeah. So when we begin to remove material from this, we're actually trying to give it some acclimation time in between. So we'll do an initial carve on the back of this. It'll remove a lot of material. It'll also get off that face of the headstock there. After that's done, we'll actually leave that on a rack to acclimate for a couple of days. It allows the neck to do any movement if it needs to be resurfaced or flattened out for the next carve process. We'll make sure that it's checked before we move on to that. Following that, we'll route out for the truss rod cavity. We'll install the truss rod. We'll put a strip of mahogany over top of it. We'll put our earpieces on the headstock. Light up that surface, and we'll begin to carve the headstock out. So that way this is flat. We drill some pinholes in order to align the fretboard. And this is actually placed in another press that inflates sort of like a fire hose. It inflates with air, so that way the pre-radius fretboard can have a consistent, pressure all along the entire neck, so that it remains entirely flat. Then we go to do the initial carve of the back of the neck. And this is directly out of the CNC machine. You can actually see there's very little machining marks. So we're really trying to achieve a really consistent carve so that every neck, every pattern thin, every pattern, and every pattern regular feel consistent with each other. Then we'll take the fretboard, we'll hand level it on these I-beams here. The beams are carved out with the proper radius. They'll level the headstock. We'll attach the headstock veneer. We'll install the frets with an arbor press, and we'll add a bead of glue under each fret there. We'll actually clip the fret ends with these pneumatic clippers here, and then we'll bevel the ends of the fretboard on a belt sander.
Okay, I got it. That's work to polish side of frets, right?
Correct. So
Okay, I get it.
we're trying to get like a 45-degree angle, so that way when you run your hands up and down the fretboard, you don't
That's the
feel,
very main thing when you play.
you don't feel the train tracks. And this is the easiest way to do that. It's a little risky. You got to learn how to do that. So a lot of these guys have a lot of skills over here and have been doing this for some time.
But really young guy. Anyway.
Right. This is a job that I did here for a couple of years too. Yeah, they've got these really bright LED lights. That way when they're checking the level of the neck, they can see if there's any gaps in between the level, the roller that they have in the fretboard.
If the
Is the production the same for rosewood fretboard, or it will be ebony or cocobolo? Everything the same?
Yep.
Maple? Okay.
Yep, everything will follow the same process up until this point. The only difference being that, you know, we may go up to a higher grit sandpaper for ebony. So,
Yeah.
woods act a little differently. So like rosewood, you can sand smooth with 220. Ebony, it's a bit more fine, a bit more dense of a wood. So we'll sand that to 400 and it looks a little better. Same with maple, you know. So we just want to get it to a point where there's no visible scratches on the surface of the car, which is essentially just readying it for paint. So we'll sand a 400 grit at the most.
What about difference between S2 and car models in the neck? So it's the same or not?
They're dimensionally very similar. Look out behind you there, just coming through. What we start with is different though. So we start with a 12-quarter piece of mahogany on the core models. On an S2 model, we'll start with a 6-quarter piece of mahogany.
So it's thinner?
Thinner. We'll take a very precise angle cut on the headstock. We'll take a very precise angle cut, and then by the time we flip that over, we can achieve the headstock angle for the head. Take another cut off from the bottom there and actually use that to be the heel.
Uh-huh.
And then we can follow through with the car process as it is there.
So it's 3-piece. Oh, and ears.
Yeah, so these actually won't need ears because they're wide enough. But it will be 3 pieces all together. So you got the scarf headstock, the heel, and the neck, and then the fretboard as well. So the big benefits of doing this, A, we can use less material. We can start with a smaller piece of wood. We also don't need to acclimate each piece as long. Since we're not removing so much material from this, we can actually only acclimate it 2 to 3 days between each step in the process. So whereas it may take 25 to 30 days to complete a neck in the core line from beginning to end, it should only take around 7 to 10 to complete an S2 neck. We can glue up the neck and we can achieve those angles without interrupting sort of the normal regulation of the wood. And we can finish it up with pretty much dimensionally the exact same neck. It'll feel the same, it'll have the same depth at the 1st and the 12th fret, same width. The S2 line does not use a headstock veneer. They get a water sealed logo on the top, so they don't actually get veneered on top with the Midnight signature. Yeah, they just get the printed on logo. But otherwise, the performance of the guitar would be the same. And some would even say that a scarf jointed headstock would be stronger than a regular headstock.
Yeah.
So, those are the 2 key differences there. Feel-wise, they're going to come down and feel the same. You know, an S2 custom, we're trying to make sound and feel just like a core custom guitar. So, next we'll go through the sampling process. And then they'll collect on our racks here and then eventually be delivered down to body neck construction there. I did want to cover our body car process.
Uh-huh. So
That's doing the perimeter cut and the cavities for the back of piezo model, it looks like. So you can see it's removing quite a bit of material, but it's very, very accurately cutting out the shape. These CNC machines are technically metalworking machines. We're one of the first manufacturers to use metalworking machines in our wood shop here, and the idea being that we can achieve much greater consistency with our carve process. So we can achieve a tolerance of up to 5 thousandths of an inch with these machines, which is approximately 2 human hairs. So, and the idea being that if you can get a much tighter tolerance on your carve process, then anywhere where you're installing another part, it can be a lot tighter, it can resonate a lot better, and it can have a lot better sustain. Following that back car, they're going to go through a top car process, and then once they go through that car process, we'll also be a CE model, so it's a little bit shallower. You can see there's a little bit of machining marks in there, but not a whole lot to sand out. Dimensionally, we've got the shape, everything's there. We just got to sand out the rough edges, got to make the ends smooth, and we'll make it scratch-free before we go over to the finish hall and start applying stain. So. Bolts on and S2 guitars. Obviously, many of them are just a one piece of wood, not a top and a back. So for the Silver Sky guitars, that's going to be 2 or 3 piece alder there. This is what they're going to look like out of the CNC machine. You can see very consistent carve, very few machining marks, and we're able to achieve a really consistent body shape that just needs a little bit of sanding before it goes on to the finish hall there. Same with the S2. This will be a standard 24, so solid mahogany model. What we do is just a simple bevel carve on the top there. We do a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch round over on the back. We do the belly cut, the tremolo carve, and then it's good to go. So, and it's just one solid piece of mahogany. We do the quick perimeter cutout, and we can do those carve processes a little bit quicker. Custom model, obviously we take the mahogany back, we'll take the maple top, we'll glue them together, do the back carve, we'll do the top carve, and that's sort of what we're left with. Hollow body guitars, 3 times as complicated. We do a full carve of the inside and the outside. It starts with the top and the back and middle. We'll do that full carve, we'll glue them up, and then they'll go in for the CNC carve of the top and the back there. So,
And this, I don't think, but it was the McCarthy hollow body one. Do you know that model with the mahogany back one? And you still doing on
process.
Similar?
Yeah.
Are you still doing just like private stock, I believe?
I think they are offered, not ordered very often. They are offered through private stock, maybe even through Wood Library as well.
So it will be
to start with a thicker mahogany back. So that's actually a 1-piece mahogany back.
and the ring is separate from the back. I mean, you have 3 pieces here. 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Then if it will be the hollow body one, I mean with back,
Yep.
it will be mahogany. Then separate this part or no?
It would actually be one solid piece of mahogany for both of those parts.
Okay, one.
So it'd be kind of like this, except we would take that mahogany back and we would carve it out entirely, and then we would put a maple top on it,
Yeah.
and then we would carve it out the top.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Similar with with an S2 Vela semi-hollow, we'll carve the top and back mahogany pieces, and then we'll actually put those together. So, or like a special semi-hollow, we'll carve the back and the hollow cavities, and then we will carve the top of the wood and the F-holes. On the right here, we've got our private stock team, our private stock wood shop team.
It's really separate part.
Yep,
They're not making any guitars, just private stock.
correct.
Okay, I got
Yeah,
it.
so private stock workers work exclusively on private stock guitars.
So here is area.
Yep.
Let's go to make a video.